Howdy everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Faab 5 campaign here on the Random Rhapsody Network. I'm Matthew R. Dawson, your friendly neighborhood host and GM, and joining me around my virtual table today are Alyssa, Joe, Jeremy, Koines, and Kyle. Say hi, everyone.
Hey. Howdy.
Now, before we begin, I'm actually going to open this awesome gift that Alyssa has sent me and everyone here in the crew for Halloween. So, thank you very much, Alyssa. I'm really looking forward to this.
Woo! Thank you, Alyssa.
Yeah, let's take a look here.
I tried to match the theme of the bags with the cards I sent you last year.
Love it.
So,
Love
like,
it.
Kyle got a Frankenstein, Koines got the ghost.
Look at that. It's a D20 with a fedora.
This is Liam with multicolored dreads here and optional hat.
I got
Love
a little
it.
red minotaur. I've never seen him before in my life.
Veil also got one of himself. Blood.
I'll be on to show you next week.
Yeah.
This is like a Nintendo Wii Me version of myself. I love it. It's so cool.
I'm gonna have a buddy of mine who has a 3D printer print off some glasses, and I'm gonna put it right on there. I love it. Thank you very much, Alyssa.
I tried to stuff it as evenly as possible so you could try to roll it, but I don't know if the sides are defined enough for it to actually be functional.
It kind of feels like it would be. I'll have to try it out. I mean, I rolled an 8. It did kind of work.
I'm sure you're gonna get more cocked than not cocked.
Yeah, probably.
Only if I'm lucky. Hey!
Jesus.
But thank you. Thank you very much, Alyssa. This is awesome.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Okay.
Thanks, Alyssa.
You guys can't see it, but she's blushing right now.
Yeah, thank you, Alyssa. It was extremely
see it
well
either.
done. Extremely well done.
Yep. Happy Halloween. We all love you.
Wait till you see Bloods.
Yeah.
I get to see it too.
Mm-hmm. That's in my car, but he'll get it when
Aw.
I meet up with him again. But getting back to the stream, now this week we will be live on Wednesday, November the 9th at 7 p.m. Central with another random game night. I'm not sure yet what game I'll be playing this week, but I guarantee whatever it is, I'll be playing it badly. Next week, we will be back to our regular schedule with the Debauchery Circus at 3 p.m. and the Faab 5 at 7 p.m. Central on Monday. And then on Wednesday, we're going to be doing the final episode of Magi Nights, an Echo from the Stars. That'll be next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central as well. We also have a bit of a scheduling change for our winter holiday one-shot. It's still being hosted by Briana McKnight from the Debauchery Circus, but we will be playing it on Monday, December the 12th, because Brandy reminded us that it's her birthday. But that's all good. You can keep up to date on all of our content schedule by following us on Facebook as Random Rhapsody TV and on Twitter as @random_Rhapsody. Okay, that should do it for the announcements. So join us as we dive into the world of Loroupa and continue on with the adventures of the Faab 5. And we're back. So when we last left off, The Fab Five had traveled into the reclusive nation of Ilmithica, a small forest nation populated almost exclusively by elves. After traveling for a day under the dense canopy of the trees, the conclave caravan paused for the night in a small clearing to make camp and rest. But it wasn't long before Liam found himself craving a hunt, as one does. Not wanting to offend their hosts, the drunken boxer made his way over to the elven camp to inquire whether or not leaving the camp was permitted. The answer was no, of course. But the elves instead offered to take Liam and his friends out on a hunt to take care of some dangerous monsters that were nesting not far away from the camp. That way, the elves could witness the skills of a conclave member firsthand. The group left Veil behind to read his book, but the rest of them have followed the elves out into the dense forest to a deep gully filled with leaves. The elves stayed back to watch, while Liam, Apollyon, Eloise, and Blood charged ahead to face down a group of what turned out to be shambling mounders hidden deep within the brush. The battle turned out to be more challenging than our heroes had expected, with the shamblers grappling them in their vines and even enveloping Blood at one point during the conflict.
Liam.
Oh, Liam. That's right, Liam. But in the end, the team did emerge victorious. And it was, no doubt, a highly educational performance for the elves as well. And so, Fab Five, once your fight against the shambling mounders was complete, the elves began to escort you all back to camp. But that too was cut short by Apollyon announcing to the party that Liam had fought a were-tiger during the first round of the Azure Championship and had been subsequently bitten. Liam, of course, downplayed the entire affair as best as he could, and eventually both groups did return to camp and went their separate ways to find whatever beds they could. So, as you all wake up bright and early the next morning, after a full night's rest, a question comes to each of your minds. And that question is, what unusual talent do you possess? And, Blood, since you're the one who rolled, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Well, I mean, Eloise's father knows I'm a good shot. But other than that, I'm rather good with my hands, and so dice games, card games, pretty much anything that I can swindle people out of money, I'm pretty good at. I could hide those aces up my sleeve anytime I need to. Three-card Monty's a favorite of mine, though. I mean, Mr. Apollyon, he didn't do too well at that, but maybe it's just because I was much better than him.
Fair enough. Well, Apollyon, what kind of unusual talents do you possess?
Oh, well, you might be surprised to find out, given my large frame, but I am a master of the art of the tango. The delicate dance requiring two partners and absolute being in sync with each other.
The flamingo. Hey, I like it. That is definitely a sensual dance, and I can only imagine Apollyon in
See,
the tights.
Apollyon in his El Toro Fuerte robes with the cape and like a rose in his mouth.
Heck yeah. Absolutely. We still need fan art of that. But anyway,
That'd be pretty cool.
Liam, what unusual talents do you possess?
Well, I'm a man of quite a few interesting skills. I think the most talented of which, though, is the ability to cause a scene or a ruckus or a disturbance, if you will. Sometimes I even do it when I'm not trying. It's just a talent of mine.
That is an unusual talent that the rest of the party has had to deal with numerous times.
No. Only Blood has had to deal with this. Everybody else enjoyed it.
Fair enough. Well, Necthros Veil, how about you?
I wouldn't really say a talent, but yeah, maybe a skill or a talent. Unusual talent would be the ability to use my persuasion in very unique forms. And I think back to when I persuaded that gentleman to make that miniature statue of myself that ended up backfiring later on, but still, I would say persuasion.
That's an interesting outlook.
That was more of a death threat, but yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough indeed. Eloise, how about you?
Well, I'm pretty good at climbing, and I'm excellent at falling.
That is very true. I don't know anybody who's better at falling than Eloise.
For Liam.
Aw.
Aww.
The trick is to just let it happen. If you try to fight the fall, that's when you get hurt worse.
It's not the motto of the monk, but go ahead.
Well, anyway. Well, Fab 5, you all wake up the next morning, bright and early. Vale, you got the reading done that we had discussed in the end of the last session, and I believe you said that you only got a couple hours left to read. So I imagine the first hour of the morning, you spend probably doing that while everyone else, you know, gathers up and gets breakfast ready and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Now, my question is, last night I assume you all stayed the night underneath Vale's dome, or relatively close thereby.
Mm-hmm.
Did you all set a watch that night, or did everybody just conk out and assume that the elves and the conclave were keeping watch?
I assume the elves would keep him watch. I doubt Blood trusts the elves like I.
Eloise definitely would have taken a watch because she's liking these elves less and less.
Blood.
Yeah, Vale, when Vale wasn't in his trance, he was reading, so he wasn't watching.
Yeah. Blood, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I am muted, yeah. Hold on one second. Yeah, I am. I was taking a call, sorry.
Okay. No worries. I saw your lips moving, so I thought maybe you were talking. Anyway, well, those of you who did take watch, who probably would have taken the last watch of the day?
It's usually Blood takes last watch.
If you want to count Jareth in there, I mean, he would be watching the whole time.
Well, I don't really count Jareth that much. Like he's there.
He's part of you.
He's part of you. He assists in that. But if you're not actively looking through him, you are sitting there reading. So I'm sure Jareth was there watching. But this is more directed at like the characters. So which character it would actually be taking the last watch of the evening? Just out of curiosity.
Traditionally, Blood.
Okay. So what's that? Eloise?
Apollyon sleeps through the night.
Yeah, Eloise will take whichever watch, first, last, doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, let's assume that Blood from a Stone is the one who took last watch, because he is usually the one that does it. You are right. And Blood, as you're as you get up and you're doing your last watch for about the last 30 or so minutes of it, you do notice that the Elven camp is getting up and preparing about the same time. The Conclave's camp begins stirring a little bit after the Elves, like maybe 30, 40 minutes later from that. But almost immediately, one thing that you do spot. What is your passive perception, Blood from a Stone?
It is up to hold on one second, I get two screen set up here. It's being a pain in the ass. Which mouse is it? It is up to a 20.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So you would definitely be noticing this, even if you're not actively watching the elven camp. You would notice that about halfway through your watch or so, maybe a little bit beyond that, a delegation of elves, which of which both Ambrosia men are in the company of, walks over into the conclave camp at just about first light.
He's going to kind of just slink a little closer, like he's stretching, doing his morning stretch. Maybe go over, and if they've got like coffee brewing in a pot or something like that, the conclave people, he's going to go over and avail himself of that just so he can get closer to hear what these fucking pointy-eared bastards are going to say.
Oh, you can absolutely do that. Your camp, I'll remind you, Vale put the dome up literally in between the two camps, since he's a half elf. So you would see them walk over. They'd probably have to go past you a little bit, make their way into the camp. They get challenged by the camp guards. There's a discussion. The elves are allowed in, and at that point, you'd probably do your get up stretch and start making your way over, pretending to look for coffee. So go ahead and give me a deception check.
15.
15, not too bad. It's not hard for you to find a cook fire with a few conclave monks around it, making up the first morning pot of coffee, and you can get yourself a mug of that. You do see that as you're making your way through and kind of looking around, you can spot that both Ambrosia men were brought into the main tent of the camp, which is Ohm's tent. There is 4 guards with the 2 of them, one of which goes into the tent with Ohm, while the other 3 kind of position themselves around 2 at the front entrance and 1 towards the other side.
I mean, I guess we just do a theater in the mind, or do you have a map set up for
No,
that?
I don't have a map for this.
Right.
We are just doing it theater of the mind. You're imagine a conclave camp. There's like a dozen conclave monks, so there's probably 8 tents, and then another very large one.
And you said both of the Ambrosia men went in there?
Both of the Ambrosia men went in there, junior and senior, along with 1 guard.
Do I amongst the 4 the elven guards that came with them, is one of them perhaps the guy that Blood spotted in the woods and called him out on it?
That when you called them out on it, what you mean?
Because he saw they were stealthing, and you had I asked if I could do a perception check to see him, and Blood did spot him.
Oh yeah,
He goes, I could see you, and then the captain like screamed at him and fucking shit on him.
Gotcha. You're wanting to know if it's one of those 3.
If one of those 4 guys is one of those guys.
Okay, how badly do you want it to be one of those guys?
I would like it to be, because Blood, he wants to make amends. He wants to apologize for being so rude and calling that out.
Okay, I'm going to say that this is kind of a little bit of a high DC to see whether or not it is, but you do have a chance because there's only like a dozen or so elves in total. So roll for me a D20. If you get a 13 or higher, then that guy is one of them.
Yeah!
There you go. Yes, one of the men guarding the front. There's 2 elves in the front. One of them is the guy that you had spotted hiding and called out. He's one of the Bari Dur.
Yeah, that's what I figured he was. So Blood would kind of just make his way over to him. He's going to kind of just put his hands up when he gets closer, and then he'll kind of put his hand to his chest and kind of bow in front of him a little bit. Just like, I just want to apologize. Earlier the other day on the trip out here, I did spot you in the woods, and I just wouldn't have a good day, and I was a dick about it, and I called you out. And I know the captain kind of yelled at you. I just wanted to apologize. I have the actual, while my people and your people may have not always seen sides, I have always had a deep respect for the Baridor. My father greatly respected you, and he he instilled that respect in my brother and I.
I like it. You know what? Great speech. Make a persuasion with advantage.
Oh, well, it's 14.
14. That's not terrible. The elf that you're talking to, he kind of raises an eyebrow, and with your passive perception, you can glance over at the other guard, who you definitely see like his lips are kind of quirked upward and bastard to his fellow guard kind of look. But the elf you're talking to, he listens to what you have to say, and he finally says, "You have good eyes, Tabaxi. There aren't many who'd be able to spot me. That's impressive."
My father actually he had learned from a half elf that knew some of your techniques, and that's where his great respect for you came from. And he tried to instill that in my brother and I. My brother, not so much. He didn't take to it, but I took to it rather well. And so I wanted to apologize.
Your apology is accepted and appreciated. Haven't seen many of your type before.
We are mostly in the gentler wastes. Unless you made a trip there, you wouldn't see us.
He shakes his head and said, "No, I spend my time amongst the trees, not in the desert sands." But
It's much nicer amongst the trees, I can tell you that.
he looks up at the foliage and nods with a kind of wry smile on his face and says, "I suppose that is true. But there are some things of beauty outside. I've seen some of the rest of Loroupa, and
Don't get me wrong. The deserts of the gentle waste actually can be rather beautiful, especially at night. But they are not as I don't know. It's much. I don't know. I'm assuming it's dangerous here with those shambling mounds. They're a pain in the ass, but I'm guessing you have much different creatures here. But I would much rather live amongst the trees than in the hot desert. Let's just say that. Especially, I mean, look at me. I'm black. I just absorb that heat.
I have no clue how anyone of your coloration would be able to survive the desert."
Tricky. Very tricky. But as I said, greatest respect for you. And he doesn't want to take up too much of his time. He just wanted to he had a growth moment, where he just wanted to say that he was sorry he was such a dick to these people. The rest of the elves, fuck him. But he has a lot of respect for the Baridor. So. And he'll just kind of bow, and unless this guy has something else to say.
He'd probably sit there and talk to you for a little bit.
Yeah.
He'd talk a little bit to you. He heard about your fight last night. Actually, he tells you that the story of what you all had done had pretty much made its way through the entirety of the camp. Mm-hmm. At one point when he's mentioning this, you do hear the other elf when the one says that everybody had heard about your exploits, the entire camp. His partner says to him in Elvish, "Quiet. Those words don't need to be spoken right now." And the other one, the one who's been talking at you, you see like side eye him, and at that point, then the conversation kind of turns away.
He'll pretend that he didn't hear and he didn't understand Elvish, but he does. They can just have idle chit chat. I mean, he might show him his bow. Cause they talk shop, about their bows, their cloaks, shit like that. Just because, like I said, he may not like elves, but he respects that core. And so yeah, they'll just kind of have a nice shop talk.
So yeah, you can spend a good 15 minutes or so just sitting there chatting with him about that, and about that time that you are sitting there talking to him about the bow, the tent flap opens, and out steps both Ambrosia men, followed by Ohm and his aide, Gracie. All four of them like stop and kind of look at you surprised, like, "What the fuck are you doing here?"
Making amends for a prior grievance, and he'll just kind of bow and kind of step back.
Ambassador Ambrosia and Ohm kind of exchange a glance, and Ohm says, "Blood, I need you to come with me right now." And without further words, he and Ambrosia, walking together, start heading towards Veil's dome.
He'll kind of like give a cut like that nod to the guard. I guess the guard's gonna follow. So I mean,
The guards
But
do
yeah.
follow. You
They'll
can
follow.
actually fall in right next to Captain Ambrosia if you want to.
yeah, I guess, but yeah, with them, he'll walk right with him.
Okay. Back at the camp, Eloise, it looks like you're in the background trying to convince a shrub to stretch out and grow a little more asymmetrically.
Yeah, just not so perfect, you know? A little organic, natural.
Are you like casting speak with plants to do this, or are you just more like being a druid?
Let me see. What is the level 3 spell? It's Eloise. Yeah, she'd cast the spell for it.
Okay. Go ahead and mark that spell off, and you're trying to convince this plant to grow and be a little more wild. And the tree is like, oh, Eloise, why should we do that? The elves all tell us that they want us to grow, and they kind of like go into how they've been told to grow and that sort of thing.
Wouldn't it be just so nice to be able to just, stretch and gather as much of that nice sunlight as you can? Oh, pop out a new leaf. Who knows?
But we want to be aesthetically pleasing.
You are beautiful no matter what shape you take.
Eloise is gonna
Don't-
start a union amongst the plants. I love it.
And don't you let any asshole tell you otherwise.
Make a persuasion check.
Yeah, she's real good at those. Persuasion. Four.
Ah.
Yeah, the shrub doesn't seem to be buying into your spiel. While that's going on, Liam, Apollyon, what have the two of you been up to?
I'm doing morning stretches, trying to achieve new balance points, just getting ready for the day before we move out. Typical monk stuff, nothing special.
Okay.
I'll also get up and do my normal routine of working, and also fly up above the camp and scout a little bit, like kind of fly to like the tallest tree or something and look around.
I guess I might take notice that blood is leaving in the distance, but
Well, he left before you all got up. You all kind of got up at the end,
okay.
towards the end of the watch, while he was over there chatting with
You might
the
see him
guards.
coming back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I probably noticed that he's gone, but
Yeah,
that's
you would-
about it, I guess.
You would notice that he's gone, and you will notice the group that's heading towards the dome. Apollyon's flying up near the top of the canopy, near a tree.
Liam's still kind of disgusted that Apollyon tore holes in the fancy monk cloaks, but okay.
Well, with that, you blood. When the group as they started approaching, seemed rather quiet and focused. Apollyon, you would see from your high vantage point a group of 4 elves and 5 elves. Ohm, Gracie, another 2 conclave monks that they picked up along the way, all making a beeline for Liam.
Uh-oh.
Eloise, you're still trying to convince the shrub that, and the shrub's just really not buying it. Like they're very lovingly cared for by the elves, and some rando dude coming up and saying, "Hey, you should do the exact opposite of what you've been told your whole life." It's just not going
not
your
landing.
direction. Yeah, it's not really landing. But you'd probably be frustrated by this lack of reciprocation, and at that point, you'd see the group making their way up to Liam as well. You, Liam, probably you're just finishing up your routine and take a pause to wipe your brow, and that's when you'd see Ohm in the lead next to Ambassador Ambrosia, the dark-haired elf, making their way up directly a beeline for you. Gracie, his assistant, is like running behind her. She's got that big blonde beehive hair and all that.
Ohms approach me, I'll take a knee and just wait for him to get there or whatever. And kind of bow to him on his way there.
He he doesn't mince words. He walks directly up to you and he says, Liam, it's come to my attention that you have recently possibly been bitten by a were-tiger. Is that correct?
It depends on what you think is recently.
Anything in the past year. More like the past less than 30 days, judging by where the moon is, in fact.
I took a bite from a man who looked similar to a tiger. It could have been a mask, I don't know.
Ambrosia steps forward and says, "Have you been cursed with lycanthropy, human? Answer clearly and specifically."
Lycanthrope. That's a big word.
The elf turns immediately away from you and looks back at Ohm, and you can tell he's agitated. It does not take an insight check to tell that this elf is pissed off. And he says, "You have brought a cursed being into our lands. Are you insane, Ohm? Is this what the Conclave does on foreign soil? It's no wonder the Federation does not liken your presence on their property." And he begins going off on this tirade. And Ohm has his hands up and says, now just a minute, Ambassador. He didn't say that he does have this or knowingly has this. This boy is an idiot. You do realize that he's good at what he does, but he doesn't quite.
Also, we are currently outside of El Mythica. Cedar Lock let us through. Remember?
No, you're literally in El Mythica.
We're
right
in
now.
El Mythica.
Wait, no, but I thought El Mythica was inside the.
The trees
the
that you went
country.
through.
The
Yeah,
city
Yeah,
is
you
different.
talked to the trees when we
Yeah.
went through the wall.
yeah. The wall
It's
was
like
the
we're in-
border to El Mythica.
We're in Canada right now, but we haven't gotten to Toronto.
Yes,
so to speak.
that's it exactly. And so, but yeah, the elves are pissed off, and you're for blood, you'd be able to hear the elves speaking in Elvish, and says, "You see that he plays the fool, but he knew what was going on. What fool would bring a curse into a curse?" And things like that. And the captain by your side, Blood, His cloak is pushed back. His hand's on his weapon, and he's watching the entire group now very, very cautiously. In fact,
I beg your pardon, sir. Bringing a curse into a curse, first of all, sounds like they might cancel each other out.
He was speaking in
Secondly,
Elvish.
my entire life has been cursed, and it
Liam,
always turns out all right.
can you speak Elvish? Yeah, do you speak Elvish?
No.
Oh,
Then you would not have heard that.
Oh, okay, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, you would not have heard the bit curse about a curse.
I mean, Blood would speak up in Elvish and say, he's really not as smart as you might think. I mean, I haven't noticed anything of, you said lycanthropy? I mean, I've come across some of those creatures in the wastes before, and he doesn't exhibit any of that. Now, if he got bit during the tournament, I wasn't with them at that time. But I'm sure that's something we could get cured, is it not?
Go ahead and make a persuasion check here.
Oh yeah, I know Greater Restoration now. Maybe that could help.
14?
Doesn't that lift curses?
14. Ohm has been listening the entire time, and he when he speaks, you get the idea that he was definitely listening and understanding what you said, because you said said it in Elvish, Blood. But like the moment you start speaking Elvish, the elves all kind of have dark looks on their face. But then Ohm turns and he yells in Elvish very loudly, "Shut the fuck up."
To me?
No, to everybody.
Oh.
Because all the elves are kind of talking all over one another. I'm not going to try to voice act a half a dozen people all trying to talk on one another.
Different tones and inflections. Go.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
You
But
can
what
change your face too?
Yeah, definitely. But what I am going to say is everybody's talking over one another. They're yelling, and then when Ohm says "shut the fuck up," like every elf, and probably you too, like,
oh yeah.
And Ohm then
yelled at everybody.
Yeah, Ohm then looks over at you, Eloise, and he says, "You're absolutely correct, young lady. If your friend does indeed have lycanthropy, a Greater Restoration spell would be able to cure it. It's not that difficult of a thing. Or a remove curse spell would also work." And he then looks at Ambrosia and he says, I'm sure you have a wizard amongst you who could do that as well. And Ambrosia replies, "Well, of course we do. And that's not the point here, Ohm." And Ohm cuts in and yells, "It doesn't matter what your point is. I think we can all agree that Liam O'Shea is not somebody who would understand what we're talking about as far as a curse of that magnitude. Is that fair, Liam?"
They're speaking in English again?
Yeah, they're speaking in common.
Common,
Ohm is.
right.
Ohm has been speaking in common this whole time. Yeah.
I am a fool, but if I were cursed with something that would endanger others that I knew about, I'd let you know about it. I can say that.
Go ahead and make a persuasion check on your own, Liam.
Sure. A 9.
Ohm kind of has an eye cocked at you, and he's more talking to the elves at this point. He says, "I'm sure you don't understand all of this, Liam, but for a cursed being to step onto an area that's also affecting the curse, we have no way of knowing how the two would interact with one another. It could be, like you said, something simple, and they cancel each other out. But there's also the possibility of catastrophic consequences. And there's no way of knowing what would happen. It's a flip of the coin. You already understand the elves are who they are. And are very touchy about their kingdom.
Is it something you said a full moon? Is that something that he'd had to have gone through before it would have manifested?
Gracie speaks up and she says, "That's correct, Blood."
Ah, he's just gonna smile at that, and turn around, and be like, "What?"
Right, right. I did not think I was bringing something castrophobic to your
Cat-
camp.
Catastrophic, buddy. The turn he's gonna be try to keep the condescension down. Well, the tournament was what, a week ago, so I mean that would have been when it would have happened. Because I've never fought these creatures with you, so that had to be when you would have encountered them.
I mean, there were tigers and there were tiger people.
Well, I mean we have never fought together against such a creature.
No, I've never
So
seen them before.
it would have had to have been during the tournament, is what I was saying. So that was a week ago.
Right,
When's
it
when's
was
the
at the
next
tournament.
when's the next full moon?
Ambrosia, the captain, speaks up at this, the younger Ambrosia, and he says, "We have less than 2 days before the full moon,
Well,
which means that
so-
if he has not gone through the change, then within 2 days, by the time we reach our first city, your friend would have transformed and killed who knows how many before he was stopped."
well,
Two
Miss
things. First off, we don't know if he is going to go through this, whatever it is. Secondly, are you saying that you don't have faith in your, not only our abilities but your own abilities to take down one sole person? And thirdly, if we don't know how the curses are going to affect each other, why not find out? That way for future, you know.
Well, do you want him to keep being a lycanthrope?
We don't even know if he is.
Well, then it won't hurt if we do this, cast a spell on him. Or is there a healer here? Can they check him out? Would they be able to tell?
As far as spells being cast on me goes, Eloise is kind of the only one I trust in that category.
And I can assure you, if he had already turned at some point, I would have just slit his throat in his sleep. No offense, buddy. And he's just gonna kind of like put up his hand. He's like, "It's all right. I'd expect you to do the same for me."
Oh, I would have slit your throat if I thought you were gonna slit my throat. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you would have been. You know what? Semantics. All right. Let's get past that. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have allowed him to stay that way. If we couldn't cure him, I would have killed him.
Where'd you get bit, Liam? Let me see. And I'm gonna just start like tugging on his shirt.
I'll roll up my sleeve since this is clearly important, and show her my shoulder where I was bitten.
Okay.
And I mean, there is a scar there. It's probably mostly healed by this point. You never actually got any real healing on it, but after about a week or so, you would see some the bite wound that is starting to close up and knit itself together.
Bruising and scabbing. Woohoo!
Mm-hmm. As you're
would the
looking
scar
at this,
look any different?
I was gonna say, does it look like, anyone which, like how any creature would, like, I mean, I've seen forest creatures
Alright,
bite each
everyone
other,
here
like,
is talking like they're an expert. Has anyone here actually seen someone infected with what you think you're also expert on?
well, so there's a lot of questions that I'm waiting for
Sorry.
for people to be quiet so I can answer. But I'm going to get on to all of these. First of all, going back to Eloise, when you had asked about what they would have done if he turned, the captain would have said, "Oh, don't worry. The moment a were creature was found in our city, it would be put down. That's not the issue here. I simply am surprised you would be content with seeing your friend killed." Now,
we don't even know if he is one.
Well,
Yeah.
finding out is not a difficult thing. Eloise,
Yeah.
when you're looking at the wound, which was the next thing I wanted to get to, make a medicine check for me.
To look pussy. It's got pus, doesn't it?
Oh.
Good
Woohoo.
roll.
19.
Glancing at the wound, there is something definitely off about it. Now, you can see the fresh signs of healing, and it doesn't look infected or anything like that, but there is an odd sort of bruising pattern from it. Now, around it, you do see the typical signs of the bruising you would see from any puncture wound. But from then, you can also see the small forms of purplish vein-like tendrils kind of stretching out from the innermost part of the wound as you're kind of glancing and poking and prodding it. And as a druid, you are somebody who is attuned to nature and understand it, and you can tell this definitely looks off to you. While you're not proficient in curses, as say a cleric would be, this to you definitely seems like something beyond an infection and more like something that's definitely affecting him.
You didn't sleep weird, right? Like, you didn't sleep up against something that would, like, cause these?
This, I slept outside of the shell in the forest here. It's very comfy.
Mm. Yeah, something's funky.
Now, asking about whether or not anyone has seen this sort of thing before, Captain Ambrosia says, "Absolutely, we have seen before. We are well familiar with lycanthropy, specifically werewolves, have been found in our lands many times, and we have been forced to deal with them. All lycanthropes are vicious, savage creatures that, when they undergo the change, they lose all sense of self. They are no longer able to control themselves, fight, act only out of instinct, and that instinct is always, at first and foremost, hunger from the change. You're
Oh,
lucky
yeah,
that
if your body goes through that kind of, like, transmutation, I don't know, that just, like, would burn a lot of fuel. Like, you need to eat after that. That'd be
I mean, doesn't
exhausting.
that sound like an amazing challenge, though?
well, yes, until the tasty morsel that it finds is you, young dragonborn.
Eh,
What? Why her?
Why not her? You are a group who sleep together. Any one of them could look like a tantalizing treat, and you, Liam, would have no
Plus,
control over which one you choose to feast on.
plus, just gonna start laughing and saying, Elvish, you have no idea how perfect it was you chose her. Just be about his day. He's
And,
like, trust me.
Like
you
this
have no
entire
idea.
this entire scene is tense as fuck, and then Blood just starts laughing
Yeah.
at the entire situation.
I'm sure we can cure him. I promise.
Blood knows that you just cut through to Liam's core. Is what
He
Blood
said this
knows.
in Elvish though, so he wouldn't.
Right.
Well, Blood said
Which is
said
why I
this in
had to
English.
respond in Kyle.
But what I'm
Uh,
saying is that I can cast Greater Restoration on him, and as far as I know, at least when we cast it on Apollyon when he turned into that big Aqua Minotaur thing, it didn't take very long.
he was
No,
affected.
It was
but
a quick spell, so
I remember
anything-
He was
didn't it
affected by a cursed item. Let's just say that.
didn't
Not an
it
actual-
require special components though?
Oh, it's diamond dust, bud. We got that.
yeah, look, I've got some here right here.
I remember it being more difficult than it being right here last time. Sorry.
Well, we had to have it ground up. We had to find a diamond first,
Right.
and then I had to get. But now we're
Last
good.
time it seemed more difficult.
Yeah, well, and that was a cursed item. This is something. This is a different kind of curse. We got that item off of him, and we've since put it away. But
A blood curse is different than a cursed item.
Yes.
Captain Ambrosia does speak up, and he says, but that doesn't mean that a greater restoration spell couldn't work.
How's a blood curse different?
In many ways. A curse imposed by an item tend to be linked to the item. Once you remove the curse, the item still remains free to curse again unless you destroy it.
Once we got that crown off him, he was good.
A blood curse is a curse that changes the individual from within. And once that corruption takes hold and it is complete, removing it becomes 100 times more difficult. And even still, there is a chance of failure in using the magic that you speak of. A good cleric would be the most effective way, one that specializes in this type of thing, but it is still possible, no matter who casts the spell.
So let me just get my options clear here. Either she successfully cures me, or you kill me. Am I understanding this correctly?
Well,
Ambrosia, the senior with the ambassador, says, that is indeed the situation, human. For bringing a curse onto our land, death is the prescribed method. If you can free yourself of this curse, death does not have to be the solution. And as he says this, his son, Captain Ambrosia, speaks up in Elvish. Blood, you'd be able to understand this as he says, there is always the right of maledictorious. And Ambrosia Sr. looks over at him and kind of gives him a scowl. He says, in Elvish as well, why would you even suggest such a thing? And Ohm perks up at this, and he says in common, and what exactly is the right maledictorious? And so everybody who speaks common can understand that.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, wow,
and because you see Ohm with like that big grin on his face.
We're gonna die.
Yeah, Ambassador Ambrosia does not like that at all. You can see his face turn purple, which is weird on an elf, as he turns to Ohm and he says, such a thing is a perversion of nature. For my son to even suggest such a thing. And then in Elvish he says, though it's obvious most people understand at this point, he says to the son, we will speak of this later. But then he turns and he says, the rite of maledictus can only be done by those who have not yet undergone their first transformation. There's a very thin thread of time for this sort of thing, but those who complete the ritual are able to harness the power of their curse and become more powerful from it.
He said this in common, not Elvish, right?
He says this in common because he's speaking to Ohm.
Liam perks up, but he's leaving the speaking to Ohm because he feels like Ohm's in his corner for the time being, at least.
Well, Ohm also is curious about this, and he says, and what does this kind of rite entail? Ambrosia has a moment, and I'd like everybody to make an insight check right now.
Yeah.
Veil too.
If you've been paying attention.
No,
If you're
I've
just
been in the
reading.
book, so I'm
No.
just reading.
I've been
Yeah,
like
you have
hovering
nothing.
around about 30 feet in the
It
air.
was almost a
I just wasn't
16,
sure 'cause
brother.
we
It
did say
was,
everybody.
yeah.
22. Ooh, 26 for Eloise.
Liam apparently bowed his head in respect to Ohm and did not pick up on this.
No, you never
Look-
know. It could be a low DC.
Looks like you rolled a perception, not a insight, Eloise.
Oh shit! Sorry. Hang on.
What's the difference in
Liam,
the
you
number?
rolled the persuasion.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, or is that from something else?
Are you
So
Proficient in
22.
both? Okay.
No, but it's +5 for insight, so it would be 22.
Okay. And Apollyon, you've just kind of been circling overhead, flying, listening
I've
to
been
this whole
watching
thing.
them, like
Yeah.
when everybody started gathering, that kind of caught my attention and watching them.
Sure.
But since nobody's like throwing any punches or anything, I'm just keeping an eye.
Now, you
Maybe
can
it's a
probably
good thing.
still pick up the fact that
The
it's definitely a
seriousness of the
tense.
note,
Yeah, it's a tense
Yeah.
situation to be sure. Vale, of course, is just oblivious to what's going on.
But I'm playing an idiot. What am I supposed to do?
Well, the captain. Anyway, sorry. For the insight checks, basically, like, imagine the scene of two titans. All of the power of them being flared out in that anime fashion as they stand there. It's like two titans taking a weigh and measured stance at one another. Like they're just they're basically, it's a challenge of wills going on between Ohm and Ambrosia. And the situation is even more tense. Liam, as a martial artist, you can tell that Ohm is trying to intimidate the fuck out of Ambrosia, but at the same time, not do so in a way that, well, fucks the entire conclave because you're standing in their
Yeah.
territory.
Without
and
showing disrespect. Yeah.
yeah. So that's kind of what's going on here. Everybody who Blood and Eloise, you easily are able to pick that up, and Liam, you're 12. You're able to just tell that Ohm is definitely trying to intimidate the fuck out of this guy.
Cool.
So that's kind of what's going on right now, and finally, Ambrosia Senior looks to Ambrosia Junior, and he says, "Be this on your own head." Ambrosia Junior, Captain Ambrosia, looks a little deflated, but then he turns to another elf and he says, "Bring me Kumna." That elf bows and takes a few steps back and then goes running off to the elven camp. Captain Ambrosia then says, "The rite is challenging. It takes a ritual done by a druid, one who understands nature and the land better than any. And it is a guided trance state that the individual must go through and fight the curse in a very physical and real way. If that individual is able to succeed and defeat the curse in that raw form before the full moon reaches its zenith, they can take control over it and become one with the creature within. If, however, they fail to defeat the creature before the moon reaches its zenith of that first full moon, the curse kills them forever. Which is why so few undergo this rite and prefer instead to be healed."
Definitely ups the stakes a bit.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it, buddy.
I don't think you know what's in my future, almost no matter what. Death is a certainty for all of us.
That's true.
It's just when and how we die that makes us unique or an everyday, boring person that just is another cog in the machine.
I think dying horribly from a curse, though, it's not a good way to go.
Right, but think of the story. If I were one of the few, rare, almost unheard of, to complete it.
Alright, just put me down for this is gonna fuck up my life quite often for 200 gold, please.
Eloise,
Just gonna step back.
you have insight that I favor over almost any. What do you think?
I think that it's your decision to make. It's your life, it's your body, it's your potential curse or not. It's your decision. And your thoughts and feelings on it are the only ones that matter. So, any of us saying how we feel about it shouldn't have an effect on your decision. What you want is what matters.
This feels like one of those all or nothing scenarios that come so rarely in a lifetime. To shy away from such a great opportunity. Every single beat of my pulse is telling me I should take this challenge.
I'm gonna look at was it the commander who told us about the right?
It's the captain, Captain
Captain.
Ambrosia, who knows this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna look at the captain and just be like, where can I learn more about this right to help my friend?
One of our Molmelda, Kumna is his name, is familiar with this rite. He can instruct you in it a little, but we will have to make our way to the city of Solverna, which is where we were going anyway. There, one of our great sages lives, who can assist in performing this ritual, if you so choose to. If we leave today as planned, we will arrive in the city well before the moon reaches its zenith. You should have at least a few hours to complete the ritual, if that is your choice. Be warned, though.
Turn to Liam.
Be warned, though. If you do make this choice and choose to go to our cities while still afflicted by this curse, if at any time you show even the slightest inkling that you are going to change, we will have no choice but to kill you outright.
I understand you will try, yes.
Like, hey, we got a bet on who kills the most things. Can I get the final blow? You know what? It's not important. It's not important. He's gonna look at Liam, just like you go, gotcha, buddy. He's having fun with this now, but he knows
the elves are looking at you all like you're fucking insane.
Liam's normal guise of happy-go-lucky is slowly turning into a very firm demeanor of like a soul quest that is coming up to him. Like he's slowly changing like demeanor like completely from goofy to absolute game mode. In Liam's mind, he's already made this decision. He's doing it.
walks over next to you and kind of slaps you on the back, probably a little harder than he needs to, as he says, "Well, Ambassador, it looks like the boy's made his choice. He's going to try this ritual of your son's and find out, and we'll see whether or not he's able to succeed. You said we'll be having to do this in Sol Meldus, right? Well, that means if we want to get there in time, we better hurry up and get going." So, and then he turns back to his camp and yells very loudly, "That's it, everybody! Raise camp! We're leaving!"
Well, I mean, I could get us and the 5 of us and 5 others there a lot quicker if that's okay.
I think we should travel as a group, Miss Eloise. I don't know if it's. I get what you're saying.
I think
Well,
I'll be
just saying
signaling for Apollyon to come down at this point so we can fill him in.
Yeah, once I see the elves start packing up and everything, I'll go down there and land. Like, what was all that about?
We fill him in. It's a bit more intense than you expected.
Oh, snap.
I'm just saying, if time is a worry, a concern, then I could wind walk us to this Kumna person faster, so that way there's less risk of them killing Liam.
I'm not
think they're gonna
100% certain they want us unescorted.
The captain,
Preemptively.
the captain does remind you that none of you are allowed to leave their care. However, he does
that's what I'm
tell
saying.
you
If
that
I can bring 5 other people, so you can choose which people.
to be clear though, Kumna was in the elven camp.
They're a person that's here with us.
Yeah, it's one of the
Oh!
mole Melda that's with them.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I misunderstood. I thought it was like part of the group that we were going to be like meeting up with at the city that we're going to.
You're going to meet up with a great sage at the city who's going to assist you with this, but they have somebody who's familiar with it here, and they're going to kind of talk you through it as you're traveling. Yeah.
Okay. Well, either way, I can get 10 of us to this sage person faster if we're worried about timing and stuff like that. Just saying it's an option.
How long has it been since we all woke up?
You're not quite on your last hour, but by the time the camps are finished, you will be. The elves are not interested in you wind walking them. The ritual has to take place on that night anyway, and you're due to arrive there before the evening. So that's why
having one of your characters read one of these books with requirements, it's just the best way of getting them to say, "You're not here. Shut up. You can't be part of this." Sorry.
But the Ohm and the Conclave begin packing up, and the elves begin as well. And by the time Veil finishes his book, he's just been sitting there on the ground because the dome dissolved a while ago, but he's just been sitting there waiting. So, congratulations, you have finished reading your book, Veil.
Yay!
Explain to us the benefits. We want to hear it now that you have them.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were gonna have if Matt had anything like descriptive, because he's way more better
smarter
at that.
Well, to describe what happens is, while all this was going on, like in your peripheral, you probably heard a little bit of a commotion, but your entire focus has been reading this book, and the enchantment just enthralls you, and you can't help but just keep turning page after page after reading this. And when the last page comes to you, and you finish reading those last words, it's almost as though your mind just expands and goes outward a little bit more.
Whoa.
Thoughts that had never occurred to you just kind of click into place, and you look about with not quite new eyes, but a fresh outlook on things that you've been pondering for some time. And there is your party, all standing not far away from you. Everyone seems a little agitated. Everyone seems a little worried. There's a lot of looks going towards Liam right now, and you do actually see a bald-headed elf in a blue cloak and leather armor, coming striding up towards your group as you look down at the book once again, thinking, I wonder what it appears to be now. And the book is blank. It's a brown leather cover, and there's pages, but there's not a single thing written on them. And you thumb through each page, one by one, but 100% blank. You cannot see a single word written on it.
Vale walks up to Liam with like kind of a large pupils, and he says, "So I've been saying things for my whole life since I was able to talk, and some of the things may be hurtful or infuriating or get on people's nerves, and everything I've said, my mouth has made these noises and my teeth have had to bear the sounds my whole life, and I just want to apologize to my teeth for everything they've had to listen to."
I bet that's reassuring for Liam.
I just go over and poke Vale in the cheek.
Liam, completely consumed with what he's dealing with right now, puts a hand on your shoulder. You're forgiven. Thank you. We'll talk later.
Okay.
Did are you guys seeing his pupils? Like, this is crazy, man. Like, his pupils are even bigger than when Fuckler all fucked with my head.
He's definitely looking
a
weird.
Time that only blood remembers, unfortunately.
That's a
He's
shame.
like, if he goes off on his own, I'm not his buddy. Somebody else gets to. It's your turn. Tag, you're it. He's gonna just slap Apollyon and get him.
Liam's gonna attempt to walk aside for at least the first 30 minutes of our next trip, and just try and absorb some wisdom from him. Just talk to him. He hasn't gotten alone almost at all since he met and he's been wanting this, and he thinks just a little bit more wisdom might be what it takes to help push him into where he needs to be to succeed at this challenge.
Okay. Well, as
I didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
So for
he tolls the dead on me. Ah!
He tolls the dead on you. You're screwed. Well, obviously is running the conclave group and has been managing it. So, but eventually he does get into the procession and is leading the way of his group, while the elves are kind of riding around the whole thing. But you can definitely ride your horse up and kind of get in on that with him. Most of the time, as he's riding, if he's not just quietly contemplative, he's usually talking to one of the other conclave members or speaking with his assistant Gracie. But what are you wanting? What are you wanting to say to Ohm?
Master, of Master.
You can just call me Ohm Kid.
Right. Sir. So I don't always make the right choice, but something in me is telling me I need to take this challenge. Is there anything you can tell me that could tell me maybe I'm insane and I should not listen to that, or something to the latter? I've always, I'm not the wisest. I'm not smartest, cleverest, cutest sometimes, but not always the smartest. What did I start with? Anyway, what would you do were you me?
He kind of chuckles at your very long line of question of rambling that ended with a question, and he says, "Well, I suppose that's a interesting question. I've seen my fair share of curses. In fact, one could argue that all life after a certain point is nothing but a curse. But the way I look at it, kid, life's also just a series of moments. And in those moments, usually it comes down to making a choice. A choice that's best for you, a choice that's best for those around you, a choice that's best for the greater good. I know all about making hard choices. Made way too many of them over a very, very long life. But in the end, when I look back on things, I think the only time I regret making a choice is actually when I didn't make a choice. When I allowed somebody else to make it for me. Even if I'm making a stupid choice, at least it's me making it, and not letting somebody else. So I suppose what I'm saying is, kid, don't worry about what I'm going to do or what I would do. Only decide what you think you should do. And as long as you ain't hurting anybody else doing it, he shrugs.
That helps more than you think it might. And he backs up and keeps pace with his group of Fab 5 people.
Literally said everything Eloise said, just more eloquently.
And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and go on break. Okay. Well,
He just sounded smarter about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Use bigger words.
Thank you for your eloquency, Matt.
You're welcome. You're welcome. What can I say? But we will be back in about 10 minutes, folks. And when we return, we'll find out what's going to happen on the next few days of travel with these elves. It should be an interesting time. So while we're on break, please take a moment to follow us and subscribe here on Twitch. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the like and subscribe and that little bell that'll notify you whenever we unleash new content, because we have quite a bit of content on our channel and we're always uploading new. If you're listening on podcast, please make sure to like it and share as well. Let people know how much you're enjoying the show so far. So we'll be back in about 10 minutes, like I said. Just bear with us and stay tuned.
Let's uncrucify Liam.
Well, we're gonna see about that. But welcome back, everybody. When we last left off, Liam's lycanthropy curse has been brought to light, and the elves basically gave him a choice: either get rid of the curse right now, go on a spirit quest to try to conquer the thing,
Or be killed.
or be murdered right there and then. At which point we'd be rolling Liam up a new character. So.
Right.
So he decided to go the route of trying to conquer whatever it is that's in him right now. And everybody in the party that spoke up so far really hasn't tried to dissuade him of this, including Master Ohm, who basically said, hey, you choose to do your own thing and accept the consequences of your choices.
Hey, Goonies never back down and never surrender.
But that's kind of where we left things off. The group is riding to the south right now, heading in the direction of the nearest town, which is Sol Melnin, where Liam is being taken to a sage. While that's happening, and while the party had packed up, and once they got on the road, Eloise, you have a horse of your own that was provided to you by the Conclave, and an elf comes riding up to you. He is a bald man, long tapered ears, and brown almond-shaped eyes, typical of an elf, with kind of a pale skin. Or no, sorry, not pale skin. Sort of ruddy skin, like they spend a lot of time out in the sun. And he rides up to you and he introduces himself as Kumna of the Molmelda, which isn't a word that you've really heard before, other than the fact that someone had mentioned that word while Liam was, being yelled at and threatened to die. But Kumna comes up and approaches you, and he introduces himself, and he says, the captain informed me that you have a friend whose interest in the rite of Maledictus. They sent me to begin speaking to you of this. As you're doing that, Eloise, you haven't been around a lot of elves, but you've been around a fair few. Or you've been around a few recently. Go ahead and make either a history or an insight check.
Well,
For a moment there, you thought maybe this elf was familiar to you, but it kind of slipped away because you've been seeing a lot of elves lately. This one more stands out to you, besides the fact that he's bald, is that his armor seems much more fine and elaborate. There's tooling on the leather breastplate he's wearing, and while you haven't spent a lot of time within the Church of the Five, you do recognize that there is some religious symbolism there on the armor, but you're not familiar enough, I imagine, with religion to recognize much beyond that fact. But
not the same church that what's her name, who has Mitchell under a Gaius, is from.
Well, there is that is the Church of the Five. Yes. What I was saying is you're not really familiar with the whole religions. So you would recognize the fact that there's like some religious symbolism on the armor, and I was referencing the Church of the Five because they are the major religion here on the continent. But if you want to, you can make a religion check to see if you recognize what that the symbolism on it is.
I don't know why I'm proficient with religion, but apparently I am. 20.
Jesus Christ. Well, okay, I stand corrected. You actually know quite a bit, or you can recognize quite a bit about it. You've seen the Church of the Five, and most of the times you've been in one of those churches, like, when you're in Bradfordshire, most of the symbolism is that of the father, Balrus. Here, however, you're looking at this and like you're seeing similarities. Like each area tends to have representation of the Church of the Five in their own. Like if if you went to Gulfrin and looked at their version of Balrus, and then looked at the same things in like Morag, they looked very, very different while still maintaining the same general symbolism. You with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
Here, you can recognize that the symbolism on the breastplate, the leather breastplate, is that of Ilmentris, the mother, the second deity of the Church of the Five. But that's where the similarities end. The motif on this breastplate much more woodsy in origin. There's a lot more trees. The breastplate actually, you can see like a feminine form within the tree, and you're like, oh yeah, that's Ilmentris. Don't the elves worship Ilmentris as though she is their only deity? And then you also remember that your father once kind of went on a rant about the Church of the Five and how Ilmentris isn't really represented very much throughout the continent, but that the elves see her as their deity, as though the elves believe that Ilmentris created them specifically. Ilmentris is often called the mother of the elves. So that's kind of what you pick up from the breastplate. This elf that introduced himself as Kumna, while vaguely familiar at first, the thing that really sticks out to you now is the fact that he's definitely of some sort of holy order.
Mm.
But anyway, he begins to educate you. And explains a little bit of the rite of Maldictus. And the things that kind of stand out to you as interesting is that the ritual involved puts the user in a sort of shared trance with a few others who are able to go with them as and they kind of act as spiritual guardians, while the person under the curse is forced to confront this. Those who participate in the ritual join in the trance and are able to aid him as he fights. If they're able to, and are successful through the enchantment of the ritual, they basically take control of the curse, and the curse then just becomes part of them and a part of their actual biology, safely allowing them to transform and gain the powers of that while still retaining their, well, in Liam's case, humanity, because he's human.
Tiefling in spirit.
And so, for the next day or so, as you are all traveling, they Kumna sits there and explains this to you, and kind of goes through the basics of the ritual. He explains that his father is actually the great sage that you're all traveling to meet, which is why he's familiar with this ritual in particular.
Do you know anyone who's ever come out of it the other side?
I have not seen the ritual succeed in my lifetime. My father, on the other hand, has told me stories of two individuals who succeeded. One was named Ilareta, and he was cursed with rat lycanthropy. He managed to defeat his his curse and became a great general within the Molmelda. My father raised me on these stories, and that is one of the reasons why I chose to join the Order to begin with. He confides to you. So it is possible. Though, like I said, I personally have never seen it, though, in all honesty, I've only witnessed my father perform this rite twice in the 300 years that I've been alive.
I think about this time Liam's usually riding pretty close to Eloise, and he chimes in at this point. So then you're all going to see history today, or the next day, whenever this takes place. Right. This will be... You'll tell stories of this should I succeed, right?
No.
Kumna shrugs his shoulders and he says, well, I suppose if you do manage to succeed, my father will tell stories to you. Perhaps to my grandchildren or great-grandchildren. Who knows?
Aye, but those will be your stories, not his.
Kumna, he eyes you a little bit, and as he does, you also notice that his eyes kind of flicker over towards blood. And he tells you, the life of the Molmelda is not often a lengthy one. We elves can live for hundreds, if not thousands of years, given the right circumstances. Those of us of the Molmelda, if we last more than 4 centuries, we are considered to be very, very successful Molmelda.
Aye, well, those of us of the human ancestry, whether we choose it or not, well, 100 years in itself sounds like quite a bit. So, I mean, it sounds like, in your eyes, I either die now or I die a fraction of a second later. Not gonna live all that long, no matter what, right?
Kumna shrugs at that and says, that's accurate, yes. A human's lifespan, or that of a dragonborn, or tabaxi, or even a minotaur, is little more than a breeze in the wind compared to the longevity of we elves.
Liam kind of throws some eyes at Blood and goes, right, inconsequential, right. I understand.
There's another elf that's kind of riding along at the other side of you. This one is wearing robes, and they speak up saying that all life has meaning, even if a fraction of a second to 1,000 years. We believe it's what you do with it that matters, not how long it is. And at that, you hear a chortle coming from both Ohm and Ambassador Ambrosia, and like the two of them look at each other and share one of those "fuck you" moments because they stole each other's thunder. Yeah,
Fuck you. No, fuck you.
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not your friend, buddy. I'm not your
buddy guy. I'm not your guy, pal.
Yeah. Travel through the day is relatively somber this time around. Like, there's a lot less chatting, a lot more seriousness, though. Kumna's conversation with Eloise and Liam is heard by all, obviously. For his part, and most of the Conclave people, there's a lot of hush talking, and you can definitely tell there's a lot of people like taking notes and recording what's been going on, because everything you've been doing from the moment you step foot on this land is technically historical data to the conclave.
Mm.
So like all of this is being recorded, everything that's happening.
I'd like to make a perception check just to see how many eyes are on me as opposed to how many eyes used to be on me.
Sure, go for it. Make a perception check.
15.
Okay, 15. Definitely a lot more eyes are on you right now. It's not difficult to notice this. If anyone else wants to make a perception check, you're all welcome to as well. But like conclave members, elves, pretty much everybody. Blood, yeah, with your 20, you notice something else. Kumna, this bald-headed elf that's been speaking with Eloise, he's been over there for quite a while talking to Eloise and Liam, and you've noticed most of the attention has been on Liam, when not also, taking down notes or examining things or watching the road, that sort of thing. But what sticks out to you more is the fact that Kumna, when every opportune moment he had to look away from Liam and Eloise, his eyes were on you.
Okay.
And it's one of those, like, you know those moments where, like, if you're talking to someone and you're, like, they're talking to a group and you're standing away, but every time you look up, like, that person who's talking to other people in mid-conversation, their eyes are on you, and then when you look at them, the eyes go back, and at the first time you think you're imagining it, but then it happens over and over again. That's, like, what we're talking about.
Does this elf look familiar to Blood at all?
Make a history check.
Bald-headed elf.
14.
Never seen him before.
Well, he'll kind of pocket that away and kind of just, why is this motherfucker eyeballing me?
So we're headed this way. We've got another night's camp before we get there, right?
Yes, you do. And most of the day's travel, like I said, other somber and a lot of attention on you. For the most part, it's very uneventful. You definitely spot more of the other elves, the rangers, the Barry Dur. You see them coming in and out, sometimes coming out of the woods to make reports, melding back into the forest again, and you never see the same ones twice. But
sure.
Other than that, like, your trip for the day, uneventful.
Sure. Liam's gonna pull Eloise to the side. He's fully used to having 1,000 eyes on him. It's not uncommon for him, so it doesn't really faze him all that much. But he's gonna pull her off to the side and kind of quote Ohm real quick and say, Ohm. He pointed out that life is just a series of moments that we look back on, and they could be good or bad or terrible or whatever. And he's just gonna go in for a full-on kiss.
And as soon as Liam kisses her, like, her tail's gonna flick up, because there's a little bit of surprise there. And then her arms just immediately wrap around him. And hands in the hair, All of it.
I imagine this is pretty out in the open as everybody's probably stopped and starting to make camp. So this is pretty obvious.
See-
Blood, Apollyon, Veil, you
In-
definitely all see this.
In Elvish, he's gonna kind of point out to the captain or whoever made the joke before. He goes, "You see why I was laughing before about how you picked her that he'd eat?" I was like, "See what I'm talking about? Yeah, that's right." And he's just gonna laugh and walk away.
Yeah.
Probably would be like, "Good job, Liam."
That's adorable. The
So stupid. I'm sorry.
Captain Ambrosia, standing next to Blood, just shakes his head and walks off. But there you go.
I'm sorry. Liam's thinking about possibly dying in a day, and he doesn't want to have any regrets. So it was an all-in moment.
Oh. And you share that loving moment, and I imagine there's like a little smattering of applause from the conclave side of camp. But they don't understand the context, but they're like, okay, yeah, whatever.
Probably Blood gets the applause started, I would assume.
Slow clap.
Slow clap. Well, other than that, the evening and the second day's camp is up for yours. You all know that tomorrow is the last day of travel before you reach the town. You've been told by both sides that you'll probably get there before sundown, and you're going to have to deal with this ritual. So in the meantime, as you're all making camp, and Eloise and Liam are playing Kissy Face, is there anything your group wants to accomplish this evening?
We are making our moment. We're not just waiting for them to happen.
Absolutely. You're making your own moments.
He's gonna make his little camp. Like he'll find a tree and nest up in the tree. He doesn't want to be in the dome tonight.
And the elves aren't thrilled with you going up and climbing up a tree.
Like I'm not gonna hurt it.
If you climb up there and like just sit there, eventually one of them will walk over to you and call up to you. Oi, you there, Tabaxi? What are you doing up there?
You see that over there, right? And he's just gonna point to them. He goes, "I'm not sleeping in the dome with that."
They're not just doing nothing but making out for the whole evening.
Being that I am an evolved, my people evolved from animals. We have heightened smell. And let's just say I'm not interested in smelling whatever's going to happen tonight.
It's terrible.
One night only. Just allow me to sleep up here. It's okay.
Make a persuasion check with disadvantage.
It's got to be an advantage. They don't want to smell that either.
No, there's no advantage to this. Like
they don't know what fucking humans. Yeah. Wet human is worse than wet dog.
Yeah, terrible human being in real life.
There, 18.
Wow, still an 18. You're calling down and saying this, and behind you, another elf on an opposite branch taps you on the shoulder.
Is this being said in Elvish?
Probably.
And you two are still making kissy face, so you don't hear this anyway. But the second elf that taps your shoulder, he says, "Do not stray from this tree."
Trust me, I'm not. I'll be good. I promise. I ain't leaving. I ain't going exploring.
The Barad-dûr will be watching. And he jumps off that branch, and the one down on the ground looks up at you, and he shakes his head, and he says, "I suppose I understand."
He's just gonna kind of like, do the thing on the chest. He's like, "You got me, brother. I got you."
Like, I'm not going to make you make a perception check. You just with your passive, you see him like pulling out some lavender from his coat and like sniffing
Put it
it,
right under
like
his nose,
right
yeah.
under his nose. Just he doesn't want to smell that shit either.
Oh my god.
Like I said, worse than wet dog.
Or wet tabaxi.
Hey,
Yeah.
let's not be judgmental here.
Other than that, is there anything anybody else wants to do for this evening?
Not unless there's somebody here that could sell me some ivory. And
No,
possibly make a
but I
statue of
would
me.
like to go up to Veil at some point and just look him up and down and say something smarter than you usually say.
And
William gonna know the difference?
Probably not.
Veil, are you with Eloise in tow?
She's around. We're all in camp. You've made your tiny hut. I poked my head in.
All right. I'll say I'll tell you right now that if you continue your public displays of affection inside this dome, I will scatter you outside of this dome.
And you just hear Eloise in the background, like, off, because she went to go talk to another shrub. There is nothing natural about this nature!
And then in return, Vale will also shout back, gesturing towards you and Liam, "There's nothing natural about this nature."
Oh my god.
You're gonna hear faintly in the distance from an Elvish from Blood and be like, "God damn it! Finally, somebody said it."
Terrible.
There's just a little bit of a chuckle in Elvish on the other camp.
I don't know. I have no plans for the evening. We'll probably get past it. I may hold Eloise's hand as we go to sleep.
Oh, Eloise, once she's asleep, ends up full-on starfishing.
Sure. Figures. Usual.
God damn it.
Someone's got her foot in their ribs, another person's got, an elbow to the face.
Yeah.
Someone's definitely gonna have to deal with the tail.
That tail is kind of just thumping Liam in the face every now and again.
Oh my god! Wow, I thought Vale said no sexual stuff. I mean, come on.
Liam has 10 feet of blind sight and deflect missiles, so the tail just kind of gets batted off all the time,
Yeah, but-
instinctually.
Let's face it. That's if he wanted to get it off his face. I mean,
He doesn't want to get smacked in the face with the tail.
yeah, maybe
It is an encumbrance that must be overcome. That's really all it is.
maybe that's
It
his
is
kink.
not a dainty, dexterous little tail like
No,
Blood's.
no.
It hurts.
Maybe that's his kink. Who knows? He doesn't even know.
No, Liam's the only one that can deal with the tail. I think that deal's fair.
It's like being whipped by an alligator tail.
Like I said, he doesn't know. He might be into that. Anyway, let's go on.
Well,
So this stops.
Blood doesn't want to teach a sexual journey, so we will move on.
Most definitely. You really want the Tabaxi to teach the human and the Dragonborn, who are both virgins, about the
No,
birds and the bees?
I don't want to, but neither do you. Don't put that all on me.
He's gonna even be like, he goes,
Don't
I
you
don't
put that
even
on me, Ricky Bobby?
He's like, I don't even know what parts y'all have, and I don't need expert. Are you like humans? I mean, are you like Tabaxi? Are the humans the same?
Vale's going to cast animate objects into the ring of spell storing for Jareth.
Okay.
Fair enough.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I don't know, Blood. What do
Always
you
pick
have in
tiny.
your pants?
Well, I mean,
Hairballs.
oh yeah, he does. Hey, you know what? If you're gonna go down on those, you better expect some hair in your teeth. That's all I can say. Actually, I would almost like to think like it's like his face. Kind of like Lionel. What is it, Lionel? Like the face, the shit, like those are like smooth, and like the arms and the back and stuff like that are what's hairy. So he's not all hair everywhere. But even if he was, you know what? Yeah, some people like that.
So now that we've learned that blood gets a Brazilian,
Hey, it's a beautiful sight. That's all you have to know.
well, your next evening goes by fairly quietly as well. You definitely see the buried door coming in and out of camp every so often throughout the night, Blood, from your perch up in the tree.
What does his arm tattoo look like now that his hair's grown back?
Like I said, he's not like white underneath. His flesh isn't. He was still
I know, but once
dark.
the fur grows back, it looks different. Does the tattoo shine through the hair?
You know what? I would almost think it probably
doesn't.
it's something like it shines. It's like a magical. It would shine through. Yeah.
So you kind of have like a like fuzzy looking like shine to the tattoo when you want to activate it.
You'll see the magical outline of the tattoo and that sort of thing. It's like just visible through the fur. So, like that'd basically be it. It'd look kind of weird because there's fur underneath it, but it's still visible enough that someone can show it.
Gotcha.
Although I should say that Blood has to shave it regularly to keep it visible. That would have been funnier.
Like I said, his skin's the same color. It's not. We're not doing that where the dog is got like, and then he's like very white and pale. No, we're not. No.
No, I'm sure the skin is kind of dark. Like. I'm sure the skin's dark too. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Just anything to get focus off Liam for 5 seconds. Let's move on.
Well, you do have a peaceful evening and another long rest. At which point, dawn awakens all of you. You have your breakfast. It's another one of the conclave members. She's a dwarf, and she comes over and gives Apollyon a kick to wake him up.
And she'll take you all.
But breakfast is had, camp is restruck, and you all spend another day traveling through the woods. About 6 hours into your journey, you are all stopped at the top of a hill. And you look down to see one of the strangest sights any of you have ever seen before. It's definitely a city because you can see thousands upon thousands of lights in the early part of pre-dusk. But while most cities every city any of you have ever been have been structures of wood or stone built on the ground, upwards of several stories tall, and some very elaborate places like the mansions that you've been to. This, however, is a city built in the trees.
Ooh.
The trees of the city, and as you've traveled throughout the day, it's very clear to you that the trees are bigger and bigger. The further south you go, the wider around they are. You're going from cedar and pine into great oaks. Some so wide around that Apollyon, Liam, and Blood would have to stand fingertip to fingertip to go all the way around to encircle.
Wow.
And these trees that you're seeing are like, imagine Ewok Village in Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
That's basically what you're seeing here. Now, of course, your trees are much bigger.
Rivendell. I love it.
Yeah, a little bit. Every building that you see, the closer you ride towards the city, are very elaborately designed, as though their curves conform into the tree, and it almost as though like the trees naturally grew this way to encapsulate these homes.
There is nothing natural about this nature?
No, it's definitely controlled, elven made, 100%. But there are bridges spanning building to building. Some of the bigger trees hold 3 or 4 houses within the branches that are, and they're built and woven from more bark and more branches to make some very, very beautiful structures that you could. Everybody looks over at Eloise and just sees her tail twitching in irritation.
No,
That's-
you know what? In the city, I appreciate the fact that they didn't have to cut down trees and mutilate nature in order to build their city. I am appreciative of this kind of encouragement. It's when you're out there where there is nobody, the fact that the nature can't just be, that freaks me out.
That's fair.
Fair enough, yeah.
But none of you can deny the fact that this city is beautiful. It's clever and complicatedly built. The architects have managed to mix magic and recyclability all in one. Like part of this is just magic guiding the plants to grow a certain way, and others is like taking found materials and weaving them together. There's definitely, like Eloise said, there's no cutting down of trees. There's no there's no harvesting. There's just very controlled use of what's available, and done in such a way that these elves are thriving. Now, the closer you get, another thing catches your interest, especially you, Blood, because up until this moment, all you've seen, other than the people you're traveling with, are more elves. However, the guards that are watching the edge of the city, as you pull up, one of them is not an elf. One of them is, in fact, a dwarf. But they're still dressed in the same regalia and armor as members of the town, the city guards. All of them have elaborate elven armor on, made from hide or leather, tanned, that sort of thing. Very few you've seen wear metal armor, though some do. And some have metal, and pretty much everybody has metal weapons. But these individuals are definitely wearing gilded leather armor, done up in an emblem that, while you don't recognize it, you can tell, yeah, that's probably the city's, whoever runs the city's symbol, because it's also on like the banners hanging from houses along the edge of town. But it definitely stands out to you that one of the guards is, in fact, a dwarf. The team, it has to pause at the city limit, and Ambassador Ambrosia and Captain Ambrosia goes up and speaks with them, and there's a bit of an exchange. The details aren't super important, but you can say you listened in if you want. It's basically just, who are you, what's going on, yada, yada, yada. You are then admitted into the city, and you ride along the ground, looking up at all of these trees and the houses that they're in, that are in the branches. You look up at the bridge work going back and forth from each one, and like they're big enough that 6 people could walk side by side across at some of the widest points in these bridges, while others are narrow, almost rope ladders type things going from platform to platform. Your group is led to a very large tree in the middle of the city, and as you're traveling through that, Blood, like you especially, would be watching for this at this point, but there's more than just elves living here. You see some workers, elves, quite a lot of them, but occasionally a human. Occasionally, quite a few half elves here. You see another dwarf and a pair of halflings and a gnome walking by as well, which can't.
A little strange to him, but
Yeah, because your entire life, the thing that you've heard and known the most is that the elves are xenophobic and don't let anyone that's not an elf into their land. But here, obviously, there are people here that's living that are non-elves. Some of them just seem to be laborers or workers going about their daily lives. A baker on a street corner. Maybe one or two guards patrolling might be of another race as well.
Can I try to talk to the dwarf guard?
As you're passing him by, sure, you certainly can. What do you want to say to him?
I say it in dwarvish. Oh, what a mighty fine beard you have! You see mine as well. That's like a typical dwarf greeting.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll just ask him like, how'd you get here? I heard the elves only like their own kind.
The dwarf kind of walks over to you and he says, interesting accent you got there. It's very rare for me to hear the dwarven tongue, but you're right. I am a non-elf living here, and how did I come to be here? Well, I was born here. My father was born here as well, as was my mother. There aren't many non-elves.
Very interesting.
Yeah, there aren't many non-elves that live here, but there are a few who've taken up residence over the years. You'll find the city of Seoul here. There's quite a few, in fact, non-elves that live here. This is one of our major cities.
And do they treat you differently?
He kind of shrugs his shoulders and he says, well, the elves run things, I just work here. They treat me well enough, I suppose. 3 meals a day, plenty of money for my job, and it's an easy life. So I'd say I'd have it pretty well here.
Well, all right. I was just a little surprised at all.
It's nice to hear the mother tongue again. I appreciate you speaking up and asking me.
Yep. I'm Apollyon from the Cragmire Mountains.
I'm Vandish. Vandish Greybeard. And he kind of looks down and he says, well, my family have gray beards. Mine is black, but one day I'll get there. And he kind of chuckles.
I'm sure.
And about that time, the rest of the caravan has made its way past, and you have to hurry if you want to keep up with them. But the dwarf lets you go
I'll
by.
hustle up there.
The tree you're led to, you find, has a stable outside of it, and a handful of workers in there come up to collect your horses. Master Ohm calls everybody of the conclave over, and he says, this is the inn where we'll be staying. And he points up, and if you all look up, there's a platform that kind of circles around the tree in a kind of a walkway that goes up to a very large, you estimate probably 4-story structure kind of made up of woven branches along the side of this tree. He calls you over and he says, Liam, the rest of you, come on over here. And you are all gathered up by Ohm, as well as the captain, Captain Ambrosia. You all notice that the rest of the elves once they have their horses and their supplies taken by the workers there at the stable, they just immediately start making their way up the gangplank and almost as though they don't want to look at your group. You kind of get that vibe off of them. But Captain Ambrosia stays behind, as well as the elf Eloise you recognize as Kumna. The captain says, "Now, my father has agreed that I can escort you to the Sage, and Kumna here will accompany us. I suppose you have no issue with heading there immediately."
No, I suppose the sooner the better, to avoid any potential close calls.
You all look up, and it's getting to the point where it's going to start getting dark soon, but you probably have a good 5 or so hours before midnight, which is when the moon reaches its height. So you got a little bit of time. But Captain Ambrosia tells you, "Very good. Please follow me." And he looks at Master Ohm and he says, "Master Ohm, will you be accompanying us?" Ohm, of course, kind of gives him a grin, and there's Gracie standing behind him, and he says, "Oh, I wouldn't miss this for anything. Come along now, let's meet this sage of yours." And I assume everyone wants to go along with Liam, or does anybody want to head up into the inn?
Oh, we'll go with Liam. Or I will.
I'll go with Liam.
Definitely.
Thanks, guys.
I just felt like I should give you the chance. I didn't want to assume.
Yeah, we'll speed along this plot thread. We'll just,
Fair enough. Well, the elves lead you through the city to another very large tree. This one stands out by the fact that its bark is perfectly pure white. Its leaves, a bright shade of red, and it stands almost in the middle of the city. As you all approach, Kumna stops you all and he says, "This is the city's sacred tree. I must ask that each of you remove your shoes before stepping into its branches." And you already see that Ohm and the captain are removing their boots.
Liam starts removing his boots and does a little cross against his chest thing, but the words he says are whiskey, water, vodka, and beer.
Once you all have your boots off, what's up?
Should I talk to the tree? I want to talk
Apollyon
to the tree.
doesn't wear boots.
Paul is a barefoot barbarian.
What were you saying? Yeah, that's true. You do have hooves, Apollyon.
Eloise?
Oh, and Aesthetics is in chat right now, giving his bits, and she says that she's giving her inspiration to Joe. So, Blood, you got the inspiration.
Yes, of course. Joe's not about to go through a trial for his life. Give him the points. I love it.
the asshole of the episode. He's been fucking with me. He's been fucking with them in Elvish because he knows they don't speak it. Thank you for rewarding my bad behavior.
Well, to speed things along in the interest of time,
I talk to the tree. I want to talk to the tree.
Yes.
are you going to try to talk to the tree?
Heck
Of course.
Just fair warning is that the moment you start approaching the tree, Kumna grabs you by the arm and pulls you back. And he says,
You don't have to touch it.
"Your friend has a difficult task ahead of him. Perhaps this is not the time, is what Kumna says.
Okay. As we walk into the tree, I'm just gonna pat it on the side and be like, "We'll talk later."
You can certainly try. But with your shoes off and all of that, your group makes your way up the gangplank, heading into the boughs of this bright white fucking tree. And at the top of it, you see what almost looks like a great cathedral built into the branches of this tree. The wood itself is bright white. The craftsmanship, like, imagine those Viking longhouses you see in the shows, all curves and really elaborately carved. That's kind of what the architecture looks like at the top of this tree. But it's like a grand cathedral of archways and columns, all made from wood that you can tell was never touched by a chisel or a saw or a hammer. Crystals glowing bright blue and green and red and purple and yellow float just on their own through the branches above the cathedral. And all of you can hear almost the faintest sound of a harmony that almost sounds as though the wind rushing through the branches, but with high notes and lows. It's musical and solemn and ethereal all at the same time. And as the elves lead you up, Kumna pauses for a moment and gives a very elaborate bow and a bit of crossing himself. And he says, "Welcome to the Temple of Ilmentris. My order has stood watchguard of these lands for millennia, under the wise tutelage of the Mother of Elves herself. This is a place of refuge that few non-elves ever get a chance to see. So I hope you all can appreciate the honor that you're all receiving here."
Liam probably squeezes Eloise's hand a little bit harder than he should, out of a little fear and anticipation.
I'm gonna hold his hand, pat it.
You're all led inside a very large set of double doors into a wide open chamber of worship. Kumna pauses and asks that your group remain behind with the captain while he goes forward himself and speaks to a pair of robed individuals who you kind of get the sense that they're priests. These are female elves, bright blonde hair, wearing very thin robes and little else as far as jewelry goes or anything like that. The elven priestesses take Kumna away, and as they're doing this, you all just can't help but look out among this grand cathedral that the elves have built. It's, as I said, all made of wood and very little else, other than there's a lot of plants in this room as well, very
And
carefully
it's all wood
cultivated.
that's like convinced to grow in this pattern, not carved or chiseled or
pretty much caused to grow and guided, and you can definitely see like occasionally there's some fresh buds peeking out in different places. But yeah, definitely this whole thing had been grown over thousands of years by very careful, meticulous craftsmanship and magic.
That's awesome.
Yeah. As you're all looking around, you can hear now that there is, in fact, a choir of elves singing at the far end of this cathedral, harmonizing in a language that most of you can't understand. Blood, you can, and it's more songs of praise and worship to the mother of all elves. But even you, as you're listening, it's one of those haunting melodies that can't help but bring a little bit of moisture to the eyes and kind of hit you right there in the feels.
Gotta put it that way, do you?
Mm-hmm.
I think in an attempt to deceive how nervous Liam is, he's gonna shout out to the singers, "You'll be singing of my praises in just a short while here." If I could roll a deception check.
Go for it. Roll a deception check. As your voice echoes throughout this chamber.
14, middle of the road.
The singing doesn't stop.
Of course.
But a few elves look up over at you, and even the captain is like, "Dude, shh."
Liam deals in his own way.
A short wait later, your group is rejoined by another pair of priestesses who lead you back out of the cathedral itself and into a series of rooms where you're eventually taken and placed before a very old-looking elf. And that's saying something because, elves don't show a whole lot of age. So the fact that you're seeing age on this man's face, he's an old fucker. But he says, welcome all of you. I have been informed by my son here that you wish me to perform a very ancient and dangerous rite on one of your number. The rite of Maledictus.
That would be me, your graciousness.
Ohm speaks up and he says, yes, that's right. We have been led to believe that you are able to perform this ritual and have done so successfully numerous times before. This man here is a member of the conclave, and as on behalf of the conclave, I would like to ask that you do indeed help him out and perform this ritual. And the old elf just holds a hand up to silence Ohm, which that's gotta be a lot of balls to be able to do that in your mind. But looking at the two of them, it's hard to judge who's older. Is Ohm older or is this elf? Because dear God, they're both wrinkled sons of bitches.
I have my guess, but I'm quiet as shit at this moment.
Ohm for his part looks kind of irritated by this, but the elf stands up and walks over towards you, Liam, and he kind of spends a moment examining you, and as he does so, he grabs onto the holy symbol on just a small golden pendant that he wears on a bit of leather around his neck. And as he does that, you can feel just a little pulse of energy. Nothing dangerous or anything like that, but you definitely get the feel of something radiating out from him as he's examining you. And he eventually says, "You are indeed a candidate for the right. But that doesn't mean you have the right to participate in this ritual. Why should I guide you on something so dangerous when I could simply cast a spell and have it removed?"
As you so eloquently put earlier towards me, every moment that we have is important and precious. And I fully believe I was put in these crosshairs for a purpose. I don't think that anything that's happened to me in my life up until now has been just random anymore. I think it's been leading me to this point for a reason. And I need to find out. I need to know. If I'm wrong, my life is forfeit. But if I'm right, who knows? This could be the greatest boon that we've received in quite a while. And I'm willing to put my life on the line for that purpose.
Now, you can all tell in this moment that Liam is pleading his case. And this elf has it within his power to absolutely say no. Does anybody want to attempt to assist Liam in any way?
There's really only one person that should be doing that.
This isn't the first curse that we've faced. And also, this is a decision that Liam's made for himself. The ability to simply remove the curse has always been there. I can do that. But taking someone's choice away from them is wrong.
Liam, make your persuasion check with advantage.
Awesome.
Oh my god, Samwise, enough.
25, sir. Whew. Good roll.
Whew, well,
Holy wow.
it was a high DC, but you beat it. Kumna is standing next to you as well, and the elf looks between you, Liam, and his son, over to Ohm, over to Eloise, and he says, "Very well, time is short. You will have to be consecrated before the ritual can begin, but it will also take me about an hour to prepare. So you will use that time to cleanse yourself, and then you will be anointed, and you will be brought before me once I am ready. For this ritual, you will need some to stand with you, to aid you as spiritual guardians as you embark upon this quest within your own psyche. Do you have any who will stand with you?"
Is there a certain number I'm allowed to choose?
As fate would have it, 4.
I think I have just the 4 in mind. And I name all 4 in my party.
You're not gonna name Ohm?
But I
Holy
figured
I
shit.
am
Figured you're
not.
gonna,
I
like-
trust you guys. I admire Ohm, but I trust you guys. My life is in the balance in this particular instance, and
Why?
I trust you 4.
Ohm seems.
Vale says, even me.
Aye, you're a little smarter than you were before. I can't tell the difference. No offense. But you say it's there, and I trust ya.
Vale nods.
The sage calls in quite a few of the priesthood who are going to take each one of you to be bathed and thoroughly scrubbed down and dried off and anointed with oil. And when you arrive there for the ritual, you're all going to be wearing nothing but robes.
Boy.
But while that's happening, you know, Ohm, for his part, looks a little disappointed that you didn't say he would do it, and he claps you on the back as you're being led away, and he says, "Well, good luck, kid. I'm going to see if I can talk him into at least allowing me observe, take some notes. We've definitely never gotten been able to view this sort of ritual at the Conclave. This will be great for the library." And
If you come up with any last minute advice, your words hold great gravity with me, sir. Sir Ohm, sorry.
he will walk up to you and lean close to you. He has to kind of stand up on his tiptoes because he's a bit shorter than you.
Liam
And-
takes a knee, yeah.
And he whispers a few words in your ear. "Don't forget to duck." And then he walks away.
And Liam looks back to Eloise and he goes, he told me to dodge, dip, duck, dive, and dodge. Should be good. Think we'll be alright.
Yeah, that's usually sound advice.
Yeah. The 5 Ds. Most important Ds there are.
Man, I was waiting for Apollyon to jump in on that, but since he didn't, I'm going to remind you that you forgot the most important D's at all, of them all.
These nuts?
There you go. Well, that's where.
Thank you, Apollyon.
Well, that's where we're going to end things
That's
this
my name.
evening. Yep. But that's where we're going to end things this evening, with the group preparing for this apparent ritual that Liam is now going to have to go through.
Okay. Yeah. Also, on a side note, I'd like to point out that every single Wednesday there is no stop on the New Time for Games gaming session. We're doing the BioShock game starting at 4 o'clock until 7 o'clock, leading into the Matt Dawson gaming hour at 7.
Very cool. I love BioShock. That should be a lot of fun. Well, thank you to everyone who watched. We very much appreciate you tuning in and hanging out with us. If you're watching on Twitch, make sure you follow us and subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the like button and don't forget to comment and tell us how you like the episode. And subscribe as well. Yeah. We'll be back next Monday at 7 o'clock to find out whether or not Liam can survive this harrowing ritual that his friends somehow have to try to protect him from as he delves into his own psyche.
Shit.
It should be a lot of fun.
Verse number 3. Here we go.
Yep. But on behalf of everyone here in the Fab Five, I just want to say once
I've
again.
got crocheted Liam.
Well, as I said, on behalf of everyone here in the Fab Five, I just want to say once again, thank you for watching. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Peace.
Later.